Welcome into the In the Money podcast for Saturday, October 8th. Big day at Keeneland. 5 graded stakes, 3 of them grade 1s. I'm Tom Leach along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Mutuals and Simulcasting. Couple of pieces of information you need to know. There is a guaranteed $250,000 all-stakes pick 5 that begins in the 5th race, and a guaranteed $350,000 all-stakes pick 4 that begins in the 6th race. And there's also a late pick 4 starting in the 7th race. So wagering opportunities abound. And we're going to go through the stakes races and then give you our choices for the all-stakes pick 5 and pick 4. Jim, we will jump into it with the Grade 3 Woodford Stakes presented by Keeneland Select. 5.5 furlongs on the turf here, 3-year-olds and up. And in this one, Jeremy Plonk, writing for Keeneland.com, is a great resource for handicappers. He comes up with a lot of great stats, and one of them has to do with these turf sprints. And for whatever reason, posts 2 through 5 are always especially strong. And looking at the caliber of horses in this field, in those slots, I think you could do worse than just box those 4. But I'm going to do that and also add in undrafted, the 9. So I'm going to box 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 for a play in here. But my win pick is going to be Big Rock. He is giving away some experience to some of his rivals. But this horse is in peak form for Clement's, a 4-year-old that just seems to really be getting good and is coming off a lifetime best 95 buyer. So give me the 4, Big Rock in the Woodford to start off the parade of stakes races. How about you?
Well, I've been burned on this horse in the past, but I'm going to go with undrafted. It doesn't seem like he ever gets to that point where he looks like he's going to run that next big race, and he disappoints you. And the only time he didn't do that in the last 6 or 7 races is the Shakertown in the spring, and he did get a 100 buyer at this distance at Keeneland, and I'm thinking that he might step up here. Didn't run that well at Kentucky Downs. He got beat in a race that he probably could have won down there. Went off at 2-1. But again, he's disappointed me in the past, so I'm not going to single him in the pick 5 here. But I am going to take him for a win bet, and I think you might get a decent price on him, maybe 5 or 6-1. This race is wide open. Mongolian Saturday. Last time he set foot on Keeneland, he won the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. And he went to Hong Kong and Great Britain since then, so he's got some frequent flyer miles, and he did not run well in either place. So you wonder what that took out of him and whether that was a wise decision to do that. But I think you got to put him in there just because he did win the last race he ran at Keeneland, and it was a huge race. Hoagie the 7, Big Rock the 4. I really like Big Rock. I think he's got a lot of upside. The last 2 for Clement have been really good. Almasty the 3 for hot trainer Brad Cox. And I would also use Beccaro the 1. The 1 hole isn't quite as good in these turf sprints. He's got to get this horse out, but he's got a lot of early speed, so I think he will. So I'm going to go 6 deep here, 1, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12 when we talk about the pick 5. But my win pick will be undrafted, but do not toss Mongolian Saturday.
Let's go to the 6th race, the Grade 2 Thoroughbred Club of America. Fillies and mares 3 and up at 6 furlongs. It's always been a nice prep for the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint. Nice group in here. Probably Stonetastic, I'm guessing, with her speed will be favored off that big buyer last time. Who'd you land on?
Yeah, but she jumped up. She jumped up from 80 to 104. I've got the note on here that she had that huge buyer at Monmouth. Very speed favoring track. Got a lot of early speed. Don't know that Keeneland's track will play. It always plays the speed, but I don't know if it's like Monmouth, just kind of a merry-go-round. So
she had one of those last year too, where she jumped up with a big number and then came back down to earth.
Yeah, I kind of take that buyer with a grain of salt because I don't know that she'll repeat that, but I've got her in there. My pick here was, and this might be a stretch here, but Sarah Sis. I think a lot of people are going to dismiss her off that Presque Isle Downs Masters race last time out simply because she's 3 for 4 in synthetic. But if you go back in her past performances, she has run really well at Keeneland. She won the Raven Run last year with a 92 buyer, and then she's 2 for 2 at Keeneland. She's won both her races here, and even though it's kind of well hidden back in her past performances, I think she likes Keeneland, and I think she's in really good form. There was an impressive win with Giroux running down the speed or holding on after setting a fairly slow pace at Presque Isle. So I'm going to take Sarah Sis here. I'm going to use Stonetastic. I'm going to use Fioretti. Fioretti pulled a big upset a couple weeks ago that was a big hit for me at Churchill. And Fioretti likes Keeneland as well. It won a big race last year here at big prices at 17-1. I'm a looker. The 7 was right behind Sarah Sis in the Raven Run last year. And the other horse that I'd use is Bendable simply because Richard Mandela doesn't ship them from California for fun. So I would use her as well. So I'm going to have an expensive ticket here in the pick 5, but I'm going to go probably 5 deep here on the big ticket.
I ended up going to Irish Jasper. Chad Brown's really good off the layoff, and this horse is coming off a race back in August. 98 buyer last time, and I think that was her 4th start for Chad Brown, so maybe he's finally got her figured out. I just didn't really have a strong opinion. I'm like you, I'm skeptical of Stone-tastic's big number last time, so I ended up landing on Irish Jasper, but I think you make some really good points on Sarah Sis. I think Spelling Again and I'm a Looker are really viable win candidates in here. So Irish Jasper is my win pick, and I would use Sarah Sis, I'm a Looker, Spelling Again, Stone-tastic, all in exacta boxes with her. And I'm like you, I'm going to try to spread a little bit when we get to the multiple race wagers. 7th race is the Grade 1 First Lady, and it's fillies and mares 3 and up at a mile on the turf. And I couldn't pick against Tepin here. She's 3 for 3 at Keeneland. She shows a sharp work off that win over the boys at Woodbine. If anybody beats her, I think it's probably Celestine. It looks like she has taken her game to a new level, and she ran a buyer last time on Belmont Day up in New York back in June that would certainly be competitive with Tepin's best number. So you could give her a shot. You got a couple of Euro invaders, Nemorelia, Now or Never, but I just don't think they're good enough to beat Tepin here on one of her favorite tracks. So it's Tepin for me in the First Lady. How about you?
Yeah, I think this is the obvious single. It's obviously not going to give you any value, but you've got a single somewhere, and she's the best bet of the day, I think. I've got on my notes here, contrarians could look towards Celestine or possibly the 7-horse Secret Someone. But I just think that Tepin would have to have she'd have to really misfire to lose this race. They put her in this race instead of the Shadwell because they want an easier race in her before Breeders' Cup. I just think she's a standout. She was not at her best in the Woodbine Mile. She only won by half a length, and she was getting tired in the stretch, but I think she'll be tighter off that. So I think Tepin is the winner.
8th race, the Grade 1 Claiborne Breeders' Futurity for the 2-year-old boys, going a mile and a 16th. And, boy, I did not have a strong opinion in this one. Who did you land on?
Well, I don't think this is as wide open as the Alcibiades. I think that you couldn't toss some horses in the Alcibiades. I have a fairly strong opinion that one of these 4 horses is going to win based on the past performances. Now, things happen in 2-year-old races, as we talked about on the Friday card, but Classic Empire was the favorite in the hopeful. Went off at 8-5 off that Bashford Manor win, and he really looked good at Churchill, and he tossed Ortiz at the start. So I think off that race, and Leperoux gets back on him here. I think Classic Empire is a deserving favorite here. I don't think that he's going to be. If I get back to the economics of my ticket, he may be a single for me. But I'm also going to use Blaine Will. I'm not really crazy about Lucas's horses these days, but he caught a muddy track in the Iroquois, and the race before that at Saratoga was very impressive. So Blaine Will, the 6. Also going to use Gunnavera, the 2-horse, won the Saratoga Special. Anytime you win a Grade 2 at Saratoga, you've got to be considered next time out. Don't know about, and Rios gets back on him after Castellano ran in the Saratoga Special. And I'm going to use Bitterman again. I think Bitterman again was good at Churchill. First race at Saratoga was great in the Sanford and didn't fire in the hopeful. Kind of ran an outside path and just never did fire. And I'm going to toss that race and say that he's going to get back to his Churchill form. So I'm going to use those 4. And I think I've got the winner among those 4. And I think Classic Empire is the most likely winner.
I ended up landing on Blame Will. He's raced 4 times. 2 were in the mud, once on the turf. The only time he caught fast dirt, he ran an 88 buyer in breaking his maiden in that race up at Saratoga that you referenced. And then came back, caught the mud at Churchill. 59 flat work coming into this for Lucas, who doesn't usually put the pedal to the metal in the mornings. And this horse got good speed, so in a race where I didn't have a strong opinion, I think I might get a decent price on Blame Will, so I'm going there. Classic Empire and Gunnavera, the 2 you mentioned, I think got to be on my ticket as well. I liked Holiday Bonus a little bit, and then Honor Thy Father for McPeak, but not real wild about the outside post for him or Classic Empire. So I ended up coming to Blame Will as my win pick, and then I'll put him in exactas with those others and go spread a little bit in the multiple race wagers. The ninth is the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile, and I ended up landing on Ironicus. Shug's 27% off this kind of layoff, Shug McGahee. So it's had a good run. It's only started at Keeneland. I like the cutback from 1.25 miles to a flat mile. Only beaten about a length and a half by Flensher on Belmont Day up in New York. So a nice long rest to come up to this Grade 1. But it's a tough bunch. Tourist is a beast as well. Ran second here in the Breeders' Cup to Tepin last year. Grand Arch, I think, can bounce back and run big. Loves Keeneland. Ring Weekend for Grand Motion. I like all of those, but I ended up settling on Ironicus as my win pick in the Shadwell Turf Mile. How about you?
My notes here say I see why Tepin opted for the First Lady, because this is a tough race.
Yes, it is.
And she could have gotten beat in this race. I think they did a wise thing. Now, she could have beaten everybody, too, because she's that good. But Tourist would be my top choice here, but I think as I look at my pick 5, I'm going to go deep in here, and I am going to single Classic Empire in the futurity. Tourist has finally blossomed last two, getting his first Grade 1. He's like that. He's like a couple other horses I mentioned before that you get disappointed in them. And Tourist is one that I think you and I have both backed in the past, and we expected him to jump up. He finally has the last couple races, so I think he's probably going to be a deserving favorite here, along with Grand Arch, the defending champion. But it seems like Tourist has passed him this year. Monty Elise, the 4 that won the Arlington Million. Miss Temple City, one that you didn't mention, beat the boys, the Makers, this spring. And again, at a 107 buyer, so she's got a shot. Ironicus just ran behind Flensher. And the other one that you didn't mention that I think you might ought to take a look at is Tower of Texas. You go back and watch the Woodbine Mile, and Tepin was getting tired at the end, but Tower of Texas was coming and only got beat by half length. So, Tepin would be the favorite in here. So I think you've got to consider Tower of Texas. Those 6 horses are the ones that I would use. I would use Tourist as a win pick, but very shaky. I think it's a great race.
All right, now let's do a pick 4 ticket, and that starts in the 6th, the All Stakes pick 4. Just as a reminder, there is a late pick 4 starting in the 7th, but the All Stakes pick 4, we're going to do that, and then an All Stakes pick 5. So give me your All Stakes pick 4 ticket.
Okay, the All Stakes pick 4 with a TCA being the kickoff leg. I'm going to use 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stonetastic, Sarah Sitz, Fioretti the 6. I'm a looker the 7. And who's the 5 horse? I can't read my writing here. Bendable, the 5. Okay, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the 6th. Single Tepin in the 7th, the 2 horse. For my pick 4, since it's not as expensive, I will go ahead and use 4 horses in the futurity. The 1, 2, 6, 11, Blame Will, Classic Empire, Guinevere, and Benjamin. And then I will go those 6 deep in the Shadwell, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, with Tourist being my top pick. So I would go 5 by single, by 4 by 6.
I'm going to go with 1, 2, 4, Irish Jasper, Stonetastic, Sarah Sis in the first leg. I'm going to take Tepin and Celestine to give myself a shot for a bigger payoff. Then I'm going to use Blame Will, Classic Empire, Guinevere, and Holiday Bonus, and then all 5 of the ones that I mentioned in the Shadwell Turf Mile. So that's, I think, $120 for $1, so $60 for 50 cents. If you want to cut it down, you could take Holiday Bonus out, and that would cut down the cost of the ticket. That'd be the first one I'd take out. All right, now we want to do an all-stakes pick 5, and that goes back to the 5th race, starting with the Woodford. And I'm going to use the 2, 3, 4, 5 in there. Big Rock was my win pick, but I'm going to use 4 horses. I'm going to use Irish Jasper, Stonetastic, Sarah Sis. I am going to single Tepin on a pick 5 ticket. I'm going to use Blame Will, Classic Empire, Guinevere, and then use the 5 horses I liked in the Shadwell Turf Mile. How about you?
Okay, this one's a $90 ticket. So in the Woodford, I would use 6 horses, the 1, 3, 4, 7, 9, 12, and that's Vaquero, Almasty, Big Rock, Hoagie, Undrafted, and Mongolian Saturday. I would use 5 horses in the TCA, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, Stonetastic, Sarah Sis, Bendable, Fioretti, and I'm a looker. I would single, tap in the 2-horse, and I would single the 11 Classic Empire in the Futurity. So 2 singles, and then 6 deep in the Shadwell Turf. Every one of these horses costs you $15. So if you do the 2 singles, it's a $90 ticket with 6 horses, and that would be Tower of Texas the 3, Mondelez the 4, Grand Arch the 5, Miss Temple City the 7, Ironicus the 8, and Truth the 10. And I promise you that will pay some money if you hit it, because it's those races other than Tepin's race are wide open.
If you wager at KeenelandSelect.com, it's 2 times the points on all winning exactas, tries, and superfectas. So keep that in mind. And it's a big Fall Stars weekend card on Saturday with 5 graded stakes, and then we'll have the Grade 1 Spinsters heading up the card on Sunday, and we'll be back with that podcast for the Sunday card as well here at Keeneland Select. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and that is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.